Michael Thomas is Director of ISOO, Information Security Oversight Office. So kick us off, ISOO's mission. Tell me about it. It's one of those agencies that really is critically important across government, but many people don't really know about it.
You're exactly right. ISOO, when people, they're familiar with the famous, it's classified, or this idea of national security information. And when they think of that, they think of the CIA or maybe the military. But at the center of all that is our organization, the Information Security Oversight Office. We are the ones who provide that dividing line between what must be protected and under what circumstances, and what is ready to be released or appropriate to release to the public. Another unlikely aspect of our work is that we're based out of the National Archives, which has responsibility for all government information. And so we deal with that which is sensitive, either unclassified or classified, to ensure that agencies understand what to do with it and that the public has appropriate access to that information when it becomes available.
You walk to a really delicate tightrope between, I'll call it transparency and national security. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that you use the metaphor of a tightrope. The question of what can be released when is often quite difficult to understand. And we have very detailed rules that govern that. But often you end up in a judgment call, or world situation. The world situation can suggest that something that yesterday must be protected today must be released. One of the examples I like to give is goes all the way back in our history. It's the Declaration of Independence. This is a document that was very integral to the National Archives. But this is a document that was plotting treason against the Crown. It was crafted in total secrecy, and yet in its text, it provides an obligation to publish and declare its contents. So we have this commitment to protecting information and appropriately releasing it right there in the moment and the mechanism of our country's founding. So I see the work that we do as being fundamental, going all the way back to the origins of our country. It's kind of baked into who we are.
That is fascinating. I'm really looking forward to, tied to this 250th anniversary, parts of that the public really hasn't had access to or seen before is just out there to take a peek at. You recently put out an annual report to the president. What was contained there? And if I'm an industry partner, what cues should I be looking for from that document?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought up industry partners. So ISOO was created in 1979 under Jimmy Carter. It actually has its roots in an earlier entity under the Nixon administration. But every year since its founding, it's provided an annual report to the president, and ultimately that report becomes public, which happened just yesterday, or earlier this week. And within that document, we're going to provide statistics and analysis of what's going on in these sensitive information systems, as well as results of our inspections to ensure that agencies are doing things well. And these inspections integrate across different, I was saying earlier today, the layers of the security pancake. Right? Onions aren't as savory, right? We look at all the layers of the security system in the context of this annual report and provide that insight to the president, to the National Security Advisor, and ultimately to the public. Within that, we are also dealing very directly with an array of partners. We have a responsibility for providing a conduit between industry and the government through the National Industrial Security Program. We are a conduit between state, local, and tribal partners and the government. And so ISOO exists to be the broker between what those entities outside the federal government need from the federal government to be successful, and the federal government certainly needs the support of those, either whether you're talking about other people in other sectors of government or in the private sector, to meet our mission needs in national security and intelligence and homeland security across the board.
Contained in that report, are there, trends that impact this really critical but somewhat narrow landscape that you serve? In that report to the president, are there things relative to facility clearance, lifestyle, or guidance on security clearance related executive orders, things of that nature?
I think that the thread that links all of those together in the context of the annual report is that all of these legacy systems, which bring with them legacy cultures, are being disrupted in this moment with the potential impact of advanced technologies.
Yeah.
And so what we're looking at from ISOO's perspective is where and how we can provide guidance to agencies on how those technologies can be applied and what standards should be applied to them. We are the keeper of guidance for how people need to account for the decisions about what they keep a secret. So how do the tools that govern that information evolve? These are the things that we're looking at across the board. One of the most pivotal aspects of the report is the recognition that ISOO and other oversight bodies also need to benefit from the implementation of these advanced technologies. We often think about how those tools will help us move things through the system faster. But in the information space, this has to be more about where you sort of lay down or lift off black boxes on the document. Agencies, the public, the president, they all crave the analytic data from this system that can only come with these automated tools. And I think ISOO will be at the center of providing that value as we continue to evolve how we conduct oversight over the next several years.
Michael, I am not nearly the, CUI, controlled, unclassified information expert that you are. So if I've taken anything out of context here, correct me. I promise I will not be offended. This community at this event here today, ClearanceJobs Connect, other events like it in prior months and years, they've been clamoring for better clarity on CUI. What does that mean? And in that report, where the government stands on classification, on declassification, on information security overall, layer those things together for me. Clarity, what would that look like, I guess is what I'm asking here.
Sure. CUI, the Controlled Unclassified Information Program, began in the Obama administration. And it's been a long while since that policy has been sort of adjusted. I think there's opportunities there over the next couple of years to refine the rules that agencies are meant to follow. But perhaps more importantly, I think CUI is crucial. And I don't just say that because ISOO is sort of the executive agent for that program, because where I think we need to go with protecting information across the board is thinking about this as more of a seamless environment. We're used to thinking of classified information as something that only lives within certain very high walls. But we know that the information that our adversaries are most after and willing to exploit is unclassified information. They can hoover this stuff up. And CUI is not just an effort to sort of change how we mark information, how we manage it in that way. It really aligns many layers of security in a common framework, which doesn't exist in the sort of markings that would have been used at different agencies to broadly mean the same thing. That is, don't share this with someone without a lawful government purpose. But now with CUI, we really have a much more integrated way of looking at the security of that information, and I think that is going to prove pivotal in the years to come.
One thing, and you referenced this earlier, is emerging technology, artificial intelligence, better sort of leveraging of all of the above. Does that CUI approach fuel better use of emerging technology and artificial intelligence? And is it part of your strategy for the future?
I think there's extraordinary opportunity to take things that have been sort of human dependent in terms of what information do I mark in a certain way. We have a lot of rules to govern that. It can be quite complicated. And I think as we've gotten used to in our private lives, there are ways to insert these tools as a decision aid, not a decision maker, but a decision aid in the experience that will drastically increase accuracy and efficiency if done properly. And that's really the question, is the devil as always is in the details. You asked earlier about sort of trends in this year's report. And one of the trends that no one disputes anywhere is that the amount of information that is being created, whether it be controlled and unclassified or classified information, that it continues to grow and grow and grow as we've transitioned from a paper world to a digital world. And we are, I think, well beyond the point where there will be enough human hands to process all the information in the manner that the public rightly expects. They expect, and under law, access to information within certain pre-described timelines. And they're not wrong in those expectations, but we have to ensure that the automated tools are brought to bear that will allow us to continue to meet them. I don't think eroding those expectations is in the right answer, because we are finally in a moment where these tools will allow us to tackle endemic, long-term systemic problems like overclassification, like a lack of interoperability that keeps information from getting from point A to point B. These problems have been recognized for decades and decades, but we're now in a moment where they can actually be solved. And in some cases, progress is being made across government already. So this is what's exciting about where we are in this moment, is that we really have an opportunity to solve some of these long-standing issues with the application of technologies throughout government.
Well, the excitement, sir, is infectious. ISOO Director Michael Thomas, thanks so much. Let's shake again. Yeah?
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.